What's going on? It's your man Diamond K in here. Of course, the Diamond K Show on fire-tv.com. Maryland is on the verge of an election. We're going to talk about the mayor's race here in Baltimore. Maryland, of course, is a closed primary election state, which means that voters can only cast ballots in their registered primary election. The party, right? You can't. You're a Democrat. You're registered as a Democrat. That is the your registered party, right? So you can only cast ballots in that primary election. Now, Democratic and Republican parties hold elections to choose the candidates for the general election. Voters registered with either Democrat or Republican Party affiliations can vote in their party's election primary. Now, any voter can cast ballots for nonpartisan offices in a primary election, like members of the Board of Education. And yes, you can change your party affiliation, but time is running out. You have until April the 23rd to change your party affiliation if that's what you want to do. So, mayor, who's going to be mayor of Baltimore? You got Brandon Scott, who is the current mayor. You have Sheila Dixon, who was a past mayor, and you have two hopefuls. You have Bob Wallace, you have Thuru Vignaraja, and you have a host of others. The top four candidates as far as polling goes, of course, Brandon Scott, Sheila Dixon, Thuru Vignaraja, and Bob Wallace are the top. So like I said, there are others that are in the race, but the four that I named recently participated in a debate, and those are the top four candidates. So those are the ones that we are really focusing on. They had a recent debate at Morgan State University where they talked about it really focused on six topics. I thought that it was a very good debate from the standpoint of it wasn't boring. There were shots taken. Everybody was throwing shots. A lot of shots thrown at Brandon Scott. A lot of shots obviously thrown at Sheila Dixon, the previous mayor. So we're going to kind of dissect this a little bit, take a look at portions of the debate, which was, as I said, took place at Morgan State at the Murphy Fine Arts Center. It was held by WBAL TV, WBAL Radio, and Maryland Public Television. Jason Newton was the host. Shout out to him, and moderator there. Also, Jane Miller was one of the participants, as well as C3 and a gentleman from Maryland Public Television. So the opening, as far as the opening, I think it needs to be strong. I personally think that your opening should be memorized. I don't think you should be reading off a paper for your open. I don't think you should be reading off a paper for your close. That's just me. But let's take a look. Thuru Vignaraja.
My name is Thuru Vignaraja.
Started
when I was 3 years old, my parents, with $200 in their pockets and two infants in their arms, crossed an ocean in search of a better life. Baltimore gave them a chance. It was here they found a home for their family and jobs as teachers. My mom at Poly and right here at Morgan State. My dad at Edmondson and then Douglas, at Southern and then Western. When he retired, he was the oldest teacher teaching in the state of Maryland. He was 80 years old. He doesn't like me sharing that with people, but that's the tradition in which I was raised. It was a tradition of grit.
All right, so we got some buffering going on here. But Thuru Vignaraja has been on the show before.
And public service, and I've tried my best to live up to that legacy. I went to local public schools from Edmondson Heights Elementary and Woodlawn High to Yale College and Harvard Law School. I served as president of the Harvard Law Review, clerked on the U.S. Supreme Court for Justice Breyer, and came home to my hometown to serve as a federal and city prosecutor and as deputy attorney general for the state of Maryland. I'm running for mayor because there is no city in America that has more of a distance between where.
All right, so we've heard this type of speech before where the candidate is he's selling himself, and he's done this before. This is his story, but the question is, do you believe him? Do you need him?
In the world, and a location between the political and financial capitals of the world. We have everything that anyone could ever ask for, is except leadership. That's what this city needs, and that's what I'm going to deliver.
Sir, thank you. Ms. Dixon.
Sheila Dixon.
I'm a mother, soon to be grandmother, a former teacher, and a public servant. As many of you know, in
all right, so
the course of my time in office, I made a mistake. I undermined the trust that you placed in me and interrupted the work that we did to reduce crime, to clean up the city, to educate our young people. The truth is, I was content spending my time working in the community. But I'm standing here today running for mayor of Baltimore.
Sheila's reading.
Because people who stopped me on the street, people who have encouraged me to run, people who have done everything in their power to see that I had the ability to run the city. I'm running because 10 years from now, we should not be going around the cycle dealing with the violent crime that we're facing, being the #1 dirtiest city in America and the most unhealthiest city in America. You need someone who's an adult, who can manage,
that's a shot at
who
Brandon
can lead
Scott.
this city and direct and work cohesively with our partners in this great city. We have all the key ingredients to be successful, but we're disconnected because we don't communicate across the city to address the issues that we impact. So because of this moment, the leadership that is
she has notes, so she's not reading verbatim, but she is going
running for mayor. And I need your support, and I need your help in helping us to change the trajectory of Baltimore City. Thank you.
All right, Sheila Dixon.
Thank you, Mayor Scott.
Former mayor. Brandon Scott's up next.
Baltimore. When I was sworn into office 4 years ago, after a campaign where I promised to move us away from the decades of disinvestment in our neighborhoods and people, away from the leadership, corruption, and scandals.
That's a shot, Sheila
height
Dixon.
Of a global pandemic. People were dying by the hundreds, and we didn't know what the next month was going to look like, let alone the next 4 years. Homicides in Baltimore had been stuck above 300.
He wants another shot.
Every
Brandon said he needs more time.
Following the Freddie Gate unrest. Unemployment in Baltimore was at nearly 9%, and we had been stuck at 16,000 vacant properties for 20 years. But even amidst that crisis, I got to work.
There was a pandemic going on when Brandon Scott was elected.
Better than most major cities.
He's not going to let you forget that.
Preventing gun violence was our top priority, which is why I created the first ever comprehensive violence prevention plan in Baltimore's history. We had a historic reduction of conversations, opening statements last year, and we're expanding that this year with 32% reduction even further. Last year, Baltimore had its lowest unemployment ever.
All right,
in the
so
city.
he's touting out
lowest vacant houses.
Give me 4 more years, and here's why. Here's all the things I've done.
While leading the right way.
How many times
without corruption, without scandal, opening rec centers and new schools, not closing them.
Okay, that's
now
another
is
shot.
not the time for Baltimore to go back to the failed policies of the past, but to double down on what's working to make Baltimore move forward.
Mayor, thank you.
All right. Lastly, Bob Wallace. Bob Wallace is independent. He ran in 2020
at this great
as well,
institution.
From charity.
You are truly a national treasure, and we're grateful that you're hosting us today. We are also delighted that you are a part of the Baltimore City fabric.
Bob Wallace is
but our
actually
city is in
independent,
trouble.
but he realizes
most
he needs
cities
to run
and
as a
societies
Democrat
have
in the
classes.
city.
You have the upper class, you have the middle class, you have the working class. But what's emerging in Baltimore is what I refer to as the irrelevant class.
All right. Bob Wallace is pretty
These are men
strong,
and women who, through no fault of their own, because of lack of skills, education, and economic opportunity, have not been able to create to have the economic benefit to allow them to contribute.
Brandon Scott is Park Heights, and I think
they struggle economically. You may wonder why does that matter to me? Because every discussion we're going to have this afternoon, either directly or indirectly, ties to that particular group's plight. And so we have to address that as a city to be great. And you're wondering, what will Mayor Wallace do?
What would he do?
Well, Mayor Wallace, and I'm so glad you asked that question. Mayor Wallace is going to remodel and remake 3 areas of government. How government delivers services to the people, how it builds an education system that is world-class, and how we build an economy that benefits the neighborhoods and the people in those neighborhoods, and not just the people who work in the shiny buildings around there in the harbor. That's my plan. I look forward to having this conversation.
Wallace,
all right.
So, our first question tonight will come from
that was very strong from Bob Wallace. I thought that surprisingly he's better than a lot of folks would anticipate. I interviewed him during the 2020 campaign. He just doesn't have the notoriety that is needed. But he has some pretty good ideas. So we had openings from the current mayor, Brandon Scott. We had an opening from former mayor Sheila Dixon. We had an opening from Bob Wallace and through Vignaraja. So all in all, I thought that the openings were pretty good. Brandon Scott is saying, I need another chance. Give me another shot. I came in during COVID. That was a whole lot. And I did some things and I need more time. Sheila Dixon is saying that the adults are back. Brandon Scott is a child. I'm an elder. I'll put that boy on my knee and spank him. That's what Sheila Dixon said. And let me come back and finish my job. And Bob Wallace is saying that we need a harder approach. You know, I was born and raised in Cherry Hill, and I can get Baltimore together. And then through Vignaraja is saying these are all he wants to present himself as the outsider. These are all career politicians. They are just making backroom deals, and I want to come in, and he has a whole idea for shaking things up. So it comes down to what do you think that Baltimore needs? Does Baltimore need a hand from the past whose time was cut short because of mistakes that were made? Does she need to come back and finish her job? Or has too much time gone and Brandon Scott is the new face? And do you like what he's been doing and you want to continue to give him another shot? That is a question. Or do you not like anything that any of these past administrators have been doing? And do you want something different? That would be Bob Wallace, somebody from the outside. He's a business guy. Or do you want through Vignaraja, who is, I've interviewed him on several occasions. I've had a chance to talk with him before. And like I said, he's running as an outsider. He has some alliances that are questionable. But what politician does not have the same type of alliances? So it's very interesting. No candidate is perfect. All of these candidates have flaws. But all in all, I thought the opening statements were good. Now the conversation went to juvenile crime. Wallace is tough on crime. He has a tough on crime approach. And with regards to the spike in juvenile crime, we have seen this across the country. But it is specifically concerning here in Baltimore. Wallace believes that current administration is too soft on juvenile offenders. Through Vignaraja wants a tougher stance on juvenile offenders as well. Do you think that currently law enforcement is too soft on juveniles when they commit crimes? That is your main concern, and from all reports, juvenile crime and safety are very high on folks' lists. So if that is something that concerns you, then you would probably look to Wallace or Vignaraja for that. They have a tough on crime approach, right? Sheila Dixon talks about the connection to education and home. And she talks about juvenile offenders and the truancy that is usually present. That means that's a fancy way of saying that these kids aren't going to school. Truancy is a law that the kid has to go to school. And they're saying a lot of these juvenile offenders are not attending school in the way that they should, right? Missing a lot of days. And if a kid's not going to school a lot due to economic factors, due to household trouble, the statistics tell us that these young people tend to get in more trouble. So this comes down to being a driver of juvenile crime. One thing about Wallace, he says that you should hold these students accountable, but you should also hold the parents accountable. And I think that is it is something that Baltimore needs. It's one of those things, what you want versus what you need. Now, what is going to be a incentive for parents to pay attention to what the kids are doing and to take a more concerted effort if they're being held accountable as well. There's a lot of parents, their kids will screw up, and then the parent will say, I can't control the kid, or if it might be a grandparent, I can't control them, they're doing what they want to do, da, 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 da. And maybe you're not applying yourself, Smokey, right? So if using Bob Wallace's plan, he wants to hold these parents and these guardians accountable for the minor actions of the kid and the kid as well. So that is a different approach. That doesn't happen too often here in Baltimore. So I know a lot of people may be scared of that. A lot of people may be scared of that because you may say, look, I can't control what this kid does when he's outside of school or outside of my house. Theroux wants a tougher stance on juvenile offenders as well. Sheila Dixon talking about, programs and trying to help the parents. And hers is a softer approach, but recognizing the importance of getting to the root cause of juvenile crime. Root cause of juvenile crime is economics. Most crime is economics, right? People need money. Brandon Scott wants to continue to build on his current strategies. Brandon Scott says that things are going in the right direction. I just need more time. All right. I got the squeegee kids off the corner, but Sheila Dixon said, you got the squeegee kids off the corner and now they're stealing cars. Oh, a lot of shots taken. Another topic that is very important, concerning to me, is the real estate development at Harbor Place. That was an important topic during the debate, and it is an important topic. I plan to speak with the top candidates. I plan to speak with these top mayor candidates. But one question that is going to be on the ballot in November for Baltimoreans to decide. Before we get to that exact question, let's go back. MCB Real Estate unveiled plans last year for a revamped Harbor Place. Now, this is along the downtown waterfront. This is reimagined, right? They're always talking about a different way to do things. I get it. No problem there. Things have to progress. Now, you remember how Harbor Place used to be. Back in the day, Harbor Place was popping. My parents had a store at Harbor Place and a restaurant in the early 80s when Harbor Place first opened, right? It has been a long time since the heyday of Harbor Place. When many folks come to Baltimore, they talk about the Inner Harbor. Now, people that live here are like, Inner Harbor, ooh, big deal, right? But folks from out of town, the Inner Harbor is like a nationwide famous thing. And it has fallen into disrepair. The harbor is not popping. All right. A lot of disinvestment, a lot of kids running around. It is definitely not what it used to be. So naturally, you have a lot of folks that want to try to revamp the Inner Harbor. It is the main tourist spot downtown. So when folks come from out of town to see the Ravens, come from out of town to see the Orioles, come from out of town for conferences and all kind of stuff, they want to check out the Inner Harbor. But the Inner Harbor is not where it should be. So there have been plans that have been unveiled, And MCB Real Estate has a vision that would transform the area's vacant retail pavilions, those big buildings, the two twin buildings. They want to create a mixed-use development, a luxury apartments. They want to create luxury apartments, 900 luxury apartments, and they want to tear down those two buildings, make 4 buildings. And they want to have some retail in the bottom level and then high rise. You know, we see this type of structure around city, and you see it in many cities where you have the apartments up and then stores on the bottom, right? That's what they want. Some luxury stuff that most people can't afford on the waterfront, right? I think that is a terrible idea. We have a whole lot of apartments downtown. They got a whole bunch of luxury stuff. What needs to be on the Inner Harbor is not that. It's not that. I don't know why. Well, I guess I do know why, because it's about money. And it's about developers coming in and making money. That's what it is. And to add insult to injury, this plan has a lot of our taxpayer public money to prop this proposal up, right? So they're not just saying we're going to come in and we're going to do our thing, but he's saying that we need help from Baltimore. We need the taxpayers' money to help build this thing. Oh, yeah, it is crazy. Now, surprisingly, this happens all the time. This is not something that is, far-fetched. And so they have these tax incentives that entice, these type of community projects, so-called community projects, because this is really just a benefit for the investors. So the plans for this site in Baltimore's Inner Harbor neighborhood, as I said, would include 4 towers, 2 200,000 square foot commercial buildings on Pratt Street, which runs parallel to the water, and 2 connected residential towers that would combine for approximately 900 units. There would also be an 8,500 square foot retail building in a 30,000 square foot park and a 2,000 seat amphitheater. So their idea is, we're doing a housing thing, right? And when I say housing, I mean luxury housing thing. And they also are saying, well, we're putting in an amphitheater type of thing. Y'all can have your little concerts and stuff. But then we're also going to have some retail stuff. But we need y'all to pay for a lot of it. Justina on YouTube says that they did that to Colonial Beach, Virginia. It's definitely all about the money. And, it is something that sadly is a trend. It is a trend. And so this proposal is going to be on the ballot in November. Now, of course, you're going to hear me, and you've heard me talk about voting, why it's important to vote, why your vote matters, right? This is one of the reasons. This is one of the things I'm talking about. Now, regardless of it, today we're not going to talk about Trump or Biden or anything like that. We're just specifically talking about this mayor's race. But I got to harken back to the importance of voting. This proposal that I'm talking about, that MCB Real Estate, the plans that they have for the Inner Harbor that Mayor Scott supports, that Mayor Scott helped bring about, that the opponents of Mayor Scott are calling this a backroom deal. They're calling this kickbacks. They're calling it shady politics. They're calling all that kind of stuff. But Mayor Scott supports this. Mayor Scott thinks that Baltimoreans want this, and it's going to be on the ballot for us to vote for. Oh, voting is important. I'm telling you. And some people are going to say, oh, it doesn't matter who. No, it matters. Your local circumstances are pointing directly to your participation in the election. So we're going to be talking about this, and hopefully we'll be able to get someone from MCB Real Estate to sit down and talk with us so we can get a better understanding of this proposal. Sounds good, but I don't believe it. I don't believe this benefits the people of Baltimore. I don't believe it. We're going to it's like they're insulting our intelligence. Have you driven on the streets downtown? So you think that we need this? This is what we need. No, downtown streets are terrible. And there's so much infrastructure that needs to be repaired. Y'all want to make some deals, fix the roads, make some deals to fix the roads. Every time, but here's the other crazy thing. Every time I'm driving somewhere around Baltimore, they got construction people outside messing around, got cones, doing stuff, drilling holes and all that. Streets are never fixed. It's always a bumpy ride. I don't know. Oh, but they'll put some tickets on your car downtown. Where's that? I don't know. It's just so much. And the mayor is very, very a vital and important part of this process. He or she is a very important part of this process. So you have TIFs. They are something that you will hear politicians talk about. Now, we say this all the time on the Diamond K Show here at On Fire TV and Radio on Fire. Politicians will try to talk like they're super smart. They'll try to say things and try to talk over your head like, I'm smart, listen to me, right? They'll try to use big words or use these little acronyms and that kind of stuff. We want to unpack that. We want to decode that kind of stuff. So I'm going to say things to you in a regular way that you can understand it, because, I don't want y'all to let these so-called smart people, so-called educated people get over and say things or they'll use this language that's not commonly used. And people won't want to ask what it means because they think it'll make them look a certain kind of way. No, absolutely not. We are not having that. That's part of the reason why we get in some of the situations that we get into with these bad politicians making bad deals that enrich themselves and enrich their partners and come at the expense of the citizens. Now, enough of that, right? So you're going to hear the politicians in this race talk about TIFs, T-I-F, TIFs. These are tax increment financing, right? These are deals. These are tax breaks. Now, this specifically TIFs is a public, and I'm saying TIFs, T-I-F. This is public financing, a method of public financing that is used as a subsidy for redevelopment, for infrastructure, for community improvement projects in many countries, including the United States. So these are tax incentives, right? Tax incentives for developers to come in and build things. Help us with the roads. Help us build a shopping mall. Help us build apartments, different things. So you've seen evidence of that in West Baltimore in the Edmondson Village area, what used to be the Uplands area, Uplands Apartments, right? They are building dwellings there. And this is a use of TIFs, TIFs, tax increment financing. These are things that are supposed to help the community. There have been examples of that. And this was brought up by Sheila Dixon. Sheila Dixon knows her stuff. Let me say that. Sheila Dixon knows her stuff. She has a difficult resume due to a simple mistake. Now, I want to say this. A lot of hay is made about Sheila Dixon's mistake. But there are politicians, male politicians, other politicians who have made way bigger mistakes, if you will, have done things that are a lot shadier. Let me say that for a lot more money. But a lot is made of Sheila Dixon in this. But let me say that she knows her stuff. She's been around and she knows stuff. And she was talking about the disappointment at Mondawmin, how there were TIFs, there were tax increment financing that happened at Mondawmin. But as you know, that's how they got the Target, which used to be there. Now it is gone. And a lot of things are tied into this. When you talk about public safety in Baltimore, when you talk about that, these TIFs, so they entice or give these incentives to investors, to developers to come in and build stuff in the city, in communities, in neighborhoods, right? Wonderful. Give them a tax break. Boom, they do it. Like you had the Target. And I'm also going to tie this into the so-called food deserts, right? The so-called food deserts. And Just Tina says that she enjoys the show, and the topics are right on. Thank you, Tina. Thank you, Just Tina. So here's the thing. You want businesses, we want grocery stores to come into the community, right? We want these superstores. We want these businesses in the community because they say we need the good food, right? And I'm tying all this together. So the problem is that when these things happen, when you have the Target come, when you have these nice supermarkets come, and then people from the community work there, or people from the community patronize the business, then you have theft because of economics. And then the business takes a loss. They continue to take a loss. Then they leave, right? Businesses know that there are opportunities in the community, but there is a concern for safety. There is a concern for theft. And this has not been addressed, right? So that's a big part of why you have these so-called food deserts, where you have these areas in the city where there is not grocery stores because they are vulnerable. But once again, the theft is because of economics, and the economics is because of it's a never-ending thing. And Midlife Bro Logic says that theft because of economics. No, I'm saying that. Listen, okay, I get it. Everybody's not going to understand this, right? Because just because you are less fortunate, just because you don't have things, does not give you the right to steal. And so when I say theft because of economics, I mean that folks don't have things, so they go out and steal to try to come up in an illegal way. And by no means am I endorsing or condoning this type of activity. No, by no way. I am just merely explaining mindset and motivation of individuals. And that's all I'm doing. So you have that, right? So you have these TIFs, these tax increment financing, as I said, which are brought about to entice development. And Midlife Bro Logic says, good save. No, I'm telling the truth. This is how, look, fam, this is how I feel. But I'm just explaining why it happens, right? Why do folks take the risk of stealing? Why? Because they think, for whatever reason, they want to take the shortcut. They want to take the easy way out, right? I do not support that. But in order for us to address some of these problems, we have got to understand what is the motivation of these individuals. So one of the questions that I really paid attention to the answers to during this recent mayoral debate at Morgan State University between Through Vignaraj, Sheila Dixon, Brandon Scott, and Bob Wallace was, do the big tax incentive deals, do they benefit the city? And I can answer that easily, the citizens, and say, no, they don't benefit the citizens. What they do is they benefit the investors. They benefit the developers. They benefit the big money folks, but the actual community, the folks that are living in the city, for the most part, it doesn't benefit them too much. Now, there's sprinkles here and there, and Sheila Dixon was very, she said it was a mixed bag, and she talked about, like I said, in Emerson Village, where she lives, in right in that area. She talked about some area in, I think she said the East Baltimore development. She talked about Brewers East and Canton, and there's some sprinkles of areas where the citizens have benefited from these big deals. Brandon Scott feels that his plans are working naturally, and he wants to say that now it's time for more deals for the city. Right, for the citizens, he wants to benefit. So before we were doing these big deals and benefiting the investors, but now, of course, my next 4 years, I want to, I want to do something for the people in that regard. I thought that was interesting. Bob Wallace said that the tax deals have not helped the people. He said that no tax deal has helped the people. I wouldn't go as far as to say that no tax deal has helped the people. I say that it is a mixed bag, and it is definitely a lopsided benefit. Now, an investor, he can be a good Samaritan all he wants, but an investor's purpose is to make money. So I understand that. An investor's not going to say, look, what I really want to do is make the least amount of money, but help the people. I don't expect an investor to do that. That's not practical, right? You're going to be out of business if that's your mindset. But a mayor and the elected officials, one of their main duties is to protect the people. So they are supposed to operate as the representative for the people. They're supposed to have the people's best interests in mind. And they're supposed to negotiate with these developers to come up with a solution that is beneficial. Theroux says that these type of big tax incentives only help the big developers. And I know that from the big developer standpoint, but you can come up with a deal, which means developers get some of the stuff that they want, citizens get some of the stuff that they want, and you come together on something. And there definitely needs to be more of that. There was talk about citizens and the candidates' feelings on organized labor. Organized labor is something that you hear talked about. There are a lot of unions here in the city, teachers union, amongst others. Bob Wallace said that he was supportive or is supportive of labor unions. He talked about his mother and father, being his father working at Bethlehem Steel and his mother being a janitor and a teacher and being a part of the teachers union, and how critical labor is and how important the middle class is in this country. And I believed him. I believe him. And I think that, he's, like I said, he's a business guy. He's not as well known as many of these other candidates. But he has a good old school, what I call an old school approach to things. But there's not a lot of money because the thing is it is advertising. Sadly, it is advertising that is important. Theroux says that city politicians have turned their back on the unions. He says that during the campaigns, they talk about unions, the middle class. When you hear that, you talk about the middle class, the working man and the working woman. Theroux correctly said that politicians come around during campaign season and then they get elected and then they turn their backs on the unions. They turn their backs on the regular individual people because they are loyal to their big money donors. How often have you, during campaign season, you're going to see, you've already seen it, I'm sure, commercial after commercial, candidate attacking the next candidate, back to back, commercial, these attack ads, vote for me, send me money, that kind of thing. And we're going to have an election in November. You're going to have somebody inaugurated in January. And then you're not going to see these commercials. You're not going to see these people coming to your church. You're not going to see them text message you. Right now, you look at your phone, you're getting these random text messages. Support us. Do this. Vote for me. Da, 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 da. But next year, during the non-election time, we're not going to hear from these people. Now, if we continue to let them get away with that, that's on us. But I'm telling you what you already know, that they are going to fall back. They're going to ghost you this time next year when they're not running for anything. And we have to hold these individuals accountable. It does not stop during election time. And if we can force these people, these men and these women, once they get elected, and how do you force them? By staying in their faces, by going to their offices, by calling them, by showing up en masse, we can change things. We definitely need to get money out of politics. We definitely need that. We need the people with the best ideas, not the best deals. We need people with the best interest of the citizens, not the people that can make the most money with their business partners. So politics as usual is not working. Scott says that he stands by organized labor and he supports them. A lot of them are supporting Mayor Scott. Dixon says that she was part of the teachers union. She's a former teacher. She said that she has family members that are parts of unions and she supports them. We have got to force these individuals to do better, because right now, I'm telling you, this is not just Baltimore thing. This is a nationwide thing. Wherever you are, you could be in a small town. You could be in a big city. The politicians, they know your number during election time when they need your vote. But after that, I'm telling you, they still got your number. All right. I consult for a couple of campaigns. They have extensive contact lists of citizens, party affiliations, all that kind of stuff. They contact you. We put a sign in such and such yard, last 4 years ago. We're going to call them up. The different things. They keep these records. So it's not like they lost your phone number. It's not like they don't remember you, but they don't need you. They don't need you no more. It's how they look at it. This has got to change. In-person voting for the primary election, polls are open 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. on May the 14th in Maryland, 2024. We need folks out there. You need to go vote. I'm telling you, this is important. Now, early in-person voting for the primary election in Maryland, early voting will be held from Thursday, May the 2nd to Thursday, May the 9th. You worried about lines, which I don't think it's going to be a lot of big lines, right? But if you're worried about standing in line, vote early. You can vote early. As I said, early voting starts Thursday, May the 2nd and extends to Thursday, May the 9th. You can do that. Early voting centers are going to be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. You can register to vote. The deadline to register to vote and update your information is Tuesday, April the 23rd. So you got a couple of days left. You can still register. You need to change something. If you're a Republican, you want to be a Democrat, or you're a Democrat, you want to be a Republican, you have time to do that. You got time to do it. You ain't got a lot of time, but you have time to do that. And as I said, voting in the election, super important. It is critical here locally. Now, next week, we're going to talk more extensively about some of the national implications as far as voting. But right now, I just want to talk specifically about Baltimore. Baltimore's mayor. Do you think that Brandon Scott is doing a good job? Do you want him to continue to stay in office? Do you want to give him 4 more years to continue with his strategy? If that's how you feel, fine. That's how you feel. You need to go out and vote. Now, do you think that Sheila Dixon got a bad, deal? Do you think that Sheila Dixon is what the city needs? Do you want Sheila Dixon to come back and, pick up the mantle where she left off? And do you want Sheila Dixon to come back and do her thing? That's fine too. Vote for her. right? Or do you think that Baltimore needs somebody else, and you like the work that Through Vigneraj has been doing? He's been representing a lot of cases around the city. He's been talking to Fox 45 a lot and others, and he's kept his name out there. He has run for mayor before, as all of the candidates have. I'm not trying to pick on him. He's ran before for mayor, and he has some different ideas. He's on some exposing people type stuff, right? He's saying the quiet part out loud. He is kind of pulling the curtain back. That's the role he's playing. And with disruptor. That's the role that he's playing Through Vigneraj. And if that is what you want, then you need to vote for Through Vigneraj. Bob Wallace, Cherry Hill. He's a business guy, and he has what I call the old school approach. Right? He's a name that you may not know or you may know, and he has a business standpoint, but he's an old school guy, and I like that he started from Cherry Hill and has gone on to become successful, and I think that he has a great story. If you want somebody from the outside that's going to take a completely different approach to politics, to the city, then you need to vote for Bob Wallace. And there are a bunch of other candidates that are in the race to become Baltimore's next mayor. You need to vote. It is critical. There's so many things that are wrong with the city. There's so many things that are right for the city, but we need folks to get involved, and we need you to, just go and vote. It's not that hard. It's not that hard, and you will feel better once you do it, especially if you are informed about what you are doing and what the person stands for. As I said, in-person voting for this primary election. Polls are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on election day, primary election day, which is May 14th. Now, early in-person voting for this primary election in Maryland will go from Thursday, May the 2nd, to Thursday, May the 9th. So you got a week to do that. 1 week. It is enough time for you to roll up, boom. But before that, just get educated on some of these candidates. Like I said, the top four, I named the top four who are polling the highest. And they are very well-known folks. For the most part, you've seen their signs around the city and all of that. So register to vote. Deadline to register to vote, as I said, or to update any information, is Tuesday, April the 23rd. Tuesday, April the 23rd. That is a couple days from now. But you need to do it, and it is important, right? It is important. All right, so we're gonna be back here, and any conversations, we can continue that offline. djdiamondk@gmail.com. On all social media, I am at the Diamond K Show. Need to get in touch with me. Very easy to do that. Like I said, djdiamondk@gmail.com. Somebody emailed me today, and I'm gonna be doing some remixes, some music tracks for someone. Emailed me today, and they were asking me about Baltimore and whether it was rough. Like, folks from out of town. This is somebody from out of town, somebody from Texas. And folks from out of town think that this is like The Wire around here, right? Like the TV show The Wire. It is not that crazy. That is movies and stuff. Now, I'm saying there are parts of town that's a little rough, right? But it's not like The Wire for our out of town folks. But it is a great place, but it can be even better. All right. Next week, I can't forget about that. Next week, Monica of Swap Radio is going to be hosting a teen pregnancy roundtable, and that's going to happen on April the 27th at 4 p.m. here at onfire-tv.com. It is a teen pregnancy roundtable. So when I was coming up, one of the things that they used to scare folks with the talk of, you want to be a teenage parent. And I don't talk about this often, but sadly, I'm going to say sadly, my first girlfriend, I got pregnant And I remember this is early in my music journey, and I was scared to death. She's pregnant, and I am trying to become a rapper, and I signed a deal. Well, I went on to sign a deal shortly after this, but I had a demo that was a record called "Hey Girl, Where Your Boyfriend At," and I got a deal behind that record. This girl gets pregnant by me, and I felt the pressure. I felt pressure about being a teenage parent. My parents always told me, you become a teenage parent, you're not going to be able to do none of the stuff that you want to do. That's it. It's over. You got to live your life for the child. And, so she tells me she's pregnant. And all I kept thinking was, my life is over. My life is over. Like, I can't. And here's the sad part, right? I pressured her to get an abortion. And not only did I do that, but I was insensitive after it happened, right? In my stupid, ignorant, juvenile mind, I thought after the procedure was done, I'm talking about immediately after the procedure was done, no pain, like it's done, it's over with, right? No. I started to say I was completely a jerk, and that's probably not the it was. I'm sure it's more than that. My point is this, that the stigma of teenage parenting then and now, I've apologized to her many times. She did forgive me. We went on to have a relationship after that, but the stigma is different now than what it used to be. I don't even think there's a stigma now. I mean, people just say, "Oh, you got a baby, you raise it, whatever." But back in the day, it was really bad, I think. And then even if you go back to our grandparents' generation, they was taking the kids, and other family members was raising the kids, all kind of stuff. But now there's so many different opportunities, so many different programs, so many different ways and ways that you can get help, et cetera, et cetera. And Swap Radio and Monica are going to be hosting this teen pregnancy roundtable next Saturday, April the 27th, 4 p.m. And you can tune in live at onfire-tv.com. I am very interested in the conversation, and I think that it's going to be a lot of positive information, some resources, some fellowshipping and all that kind of stuff. And Monica's going to be able to share some of her experiences as well. As I said, if you have any upcoming events, djdiamondk@gmail.com, send those to me so we can plug them. Do that very easy. And as always, if you want to check out any episodes or watch us live, very easy, onfire-tv.com, click watch, OnFire TV. You can very easy on the screen, onfire-tv.com, or you can go to the website, click watch, and or listen if you so desire. All right, so I will be back here tomorrow with a mix, and of course back Monday 6 p.m. For the Diamond K Show. Thanks for listening.